As you heard in the introduction, my name is Janneke Arnes. I am the founding head of a international IB school that just opened in Dubai 6 months ago. The Dwight School is new in this market. It's a school with a long legacy. So I am representing an old institution in education that has gone through hopefully many of the changes that we are looking for in education, but we have certainly been where Graham showed in his illustrations about the desks in a row in a classroom. For getting our ducks in a row in education, some of them really have to fall out of that row. I agree with you, Sarah. Everyone is a teacher. Now, I am a teacher. I started off in education as a student, then became a teacher, and now I am an educational leader. I have found a passion for myself where I do believe that it is possible for a person to make an impact. And I think maybe that is one of the key elements that we need to look for in education today, is to instill in every single child, in every single individual, the notion of the impact that one person can make. So I come here today in a time where technology is prevalent, where we've heard presentations about quite amazing technological advancements that can enhance education, and yet I come here as an educator without any technology. I come here today only with myself. I am picking up my presentation based on some of the things that incredible presenters have said before me. And I'm going to use that deliberately as an example of what I think can be a disrupting factor in education. Graham, you gave us an interesting little package. And as an educational leader, I respected the direction that was given. Do not open it before I say so. I like that. I like being able to tell people something only once, and they listen to it, but then they act. Now what I did, I made a duck because I was told to make a duck. And I made something that, I think you took a picture of it. I don't know if it looked like a duck. It certainly didn't look like this one. And I chose afterwards to redesign my duck. I was pretty happy with the first one I made, because I thought it was fun to do so. But I looked at it afterwards and I thought that was a very odd shape and looked like cubes on top of each other and had lost one leg. So I redesigned it. And this is something that we are teaching in our school to all our students. We're teaching them a way to design their own thinking. When you give an instruction to a child, in the past, and unfortunately quite often so also now in the present, we tell children what they need to learn. But do we tell them how to design their learning? I'm not sure that many schools actually have picked up on that yet. I believe that I do represent the school that is trying to challenge the norm of inputting knowledge into young minds today, but teaching them rather tools and skills that they can use to apply knowledge, to apply experience, and to try new things without fearing the outcome of that trial. If I could maybe get away from standardized testing and eliminate it as an educator today, I would probably vote for that as one solution. But it's not all bad with testing, but it's definitely something that I would be more than happy to have a discussion about. I'm not going to spend any time on that today, but rather on the design thinking process and the way that we can disrupt education. I'm going to ask a question to Hind because I'm not sure I remember the department correctly. Is it creativity, happiness, and innovation? I really, really liked the happiness part. I think today, when working with young people, one of the key elements of our educational institutions and our power as educators is to create a space for children to be happy. I felt quite excited when I got this little package, and the fact that I was happy about it made me do it. I felt ridiculous, especially when I looked at what I had created in 90 seconds, because it really stressed me that I had 90 seconds only, like, I don't know what to do. And I didn't take much time to think. I just jumped into it, and I created something odd. And if we had an airdrop, I would have loved for you to airdrop my picture and see what the duck looked like. Anyway, in my redesign process of the duck, I came up with something that I'm slightly more happy with, but I'd like to continue working on this and changing it again. But I was really happy about this. And I think that is key to education. Children need to be happy. It sounds quite silly, maybe. It sounds very easy and even banal. But we are in a place in the world, and I believe it is the first, if not the only place in the world, where there is a ministry of happiness. The UAE has taken seriously that people need to be happy in order to be able to excel, in order to be able to create, in order to be able to come up with new things, in order to be able to defy norms, because unless you're happy, happy meaning also that you are safe, that you feel that there is a space for you, that it is possible to explore without being judged, then we can create and we can innovate and we can come up with solutions that are going to meet some of the challenges that Graham also pointed towards. If our children in schools today do not understand that they have a voice where they can impact the future, then I agree with you. If not me, then who? And if not now, then when? So my role as an educator is to create a space where children are happy, feel safe, and when we are not judging them based on the picture that could have been on this package of how the duck was going to look like. Because that would have given us, I'm not sure how many we are, because I'm also that person who counts on my fingers, and you're more people than my 5 fingers that I have available, but we would have created a number of ducks would look the same. We wouldn't have done anything. Wouldn't contribute to anyone's. We would certainly not have innovated. We'd not have well, we would have created, but we would only have recreated, really. It wouldn't have been a real creation. I have been incredibly fortunate to come into a place in the world where there is an institutionalized opportunity to disrupt in an area which is extremely hard to change. I hate saying this as an educator, that I actually represent a profession, I represent a field where change is incredibly challenging. Most of my colleagues hate change. Absolutely. Throw something at them, they will freak out, they will not want to do it, and they despise me for giving little time, little direction, little guidance, and they are the educators. They are the ones that are going to create the young minds of the future. Now I have to continue to challenge them. And we are only one school. But I do believe that even if we are just one school, we can still make a significant difference. And I mentioned I feel really privileged to be here, and that goes to the credit of the KHDA. And again, to the KHDA, it goes back to the Future Foundation. Because the KHDA picked up on an initiative, the 10X initiative, that sets out to come up with disruptive opportunities. And even if we are a new school in the UAE, and even if we do have to measure up to inspections, to tests, standardized tests, part of the national agenda is to raise UAE to one of the can't remember now, this is quite embarrassing, I should know, Definitely in the top scores of PISA tests, standardized tests. Now, I just said that I don't, you know, if I was a real disruptor, I would get rid of it. Maybe in a future position where I can impact more than one school, I might contribute to that. But I am in a place where, together with the KHDA, can contribute to showing that there is an opportunity in a very, very established system still to be a disruptor, still to be able to create an opportunity for young people to believe that they have a voice and they do not have to sit in a row. They do not have to raise their hand and wait for the teacher to tell them that, yes, it is your turn to speak and you have 90 seconds only to pitch what you want to say. Sorry, Graham. With the educational opportunity through Rahal, and I will take this opportunity to talk a little bit about that, because this is maybe my contribution, our contribution into making an impact on how we view education in the future. We are allowed to pilot something that is not commonplace in the school. And I know that also a colleague of mine will probably talk about some of this as well. How we as institutions still can create a framework that is given the parameters to operate outside the natural borders, outside what you recognize in a school. And to take maybe one student or 1,000 students, doesn't really matter the numbers, because I do believe that that one student actually counts. We can take a student and we can allow a student to design his or her own education. As an institution, we have the privilege of having a certain knowledge that gives us a framework that we can operate within, but we can push the boundaries, and the boundaries, there is no end to where these boundaries can be pushed. We have to showcase, of course, that it is future-proofing, as Sarah as well said. Any innovation, I mean, you can create a lot of things. If it doesn't impact anything, if it doesn't make any good for anyone, we have to question whether it's worth it or not. But unless we're willing to try, how will we ever be able to go away from the 17th century, 16th century, desks in a row with a teacher in front, and the only thing we have done is to put an iPad in front of the child and say that now we've innovated education. Now that's why I chose to come here also with no fancy tools. Because it isn't about the technology. For me, it is really about that one person. I have a friend of mine whose motto I wish I could have adopted, but he owns it, but I will refer to him. And he's not the creator of it. He picked it from a time and place where people were living under very challenging conditions. But in the slavery industry in the US, there was a motto growing saying, each one, teach one. Nobody was an educator. But every single person has something that is worth passing on to someone else. That is why I agree with you also, Sarah. We are all teachers. And teachers today are curators, because if we believe that teaching is about being the oracle of all knowledge, feeding that into the mouth of the young, or into the brain of the young people in front of us, I think we're doing a massive disservice to everyone in education. Standing in front of you, I have a message to convey to you today. But as a true believer in the kind of educational system that I represent, I would not be standing here giving a monologue to you. Our learning environment should be driven by collaboration, by teamwork, by you asking challenging questions, those big why questions. If I only threw out a concept, and that's back to Graham, you mentioned the constructivist thinking. If we threw out a concept to students, we have no written curriculum. We get rid of the written curriculum. We give them some guiding questions, big concepts that will challenge their mind and make them think. That is what I believe that the future needs. They do not need students who score perfectly on a maths test or a physics test or a geography test, or who can recite all the capitals in the world but have no idea how countries are connected, or how cultures are connected, or how borders have been created by people who had absolutely no understanding for the people living within these borders. That knowledge is belonging to these pictures of desks in a row and children who are just being prepared to regurgitate knowledge that might have been useful in a time where we didn't want too many people to ask too many questions, because that's not what we needed. We needed, in the history, in a time, a lot of people to do hard work without asking questions. That's how we built our society. That's how we came to where we are today. But we have to realize that that's not where we want to go. We know from studies, OECD has published many reports, and many other research centers have published multiple reports telling us that at least 65% of jobs of the future have never been thought of today. They are not created. So as my role as an educator is to prepare the students in our classrooms to go out there and create those jobs. And I believe that they need to feel empowered, they need to be happy, they need to feel safe, safe in the sense that they can push the boundaries, that they can change the duck, make it look like something completely different, because we depend on the young people today to be able to have the skill set that is required for them to create these jobs, so that they are going to contribute to increasing the well-being of every single individual around us, those that live today and those that are going to be born in the future. They do not do that with perfect scores on a maths test or on a geography test. But they do that if they can communicate, if they can collaborate, if they accept that they might have an idea that somebody else is going to crush, whereas they should pick up their idea again and go back to the drawing board and be able to redesign it. Now that takes skills. That's what we can teach in education today. If we teach these skills, they will be able to come up with things that are so much more amazing than my little duck. And I believe firmly that the KHDA has brought to the table an opportunity through Rahal to allow educational institutions to show that there is a willingness and an opportunity. Well, there is an opportunity, and there is a willingness to take that opportunity to try out something new and to test these boundaries and see how far we can take education. And we need to pilot something that hopefully somebody else is going to pick up and make 100 times better. If what I do in our school today is going to inspire another school to do something that looks similar but different, we might be able to start a wave in education that will fast-track the development and the change that is necessary in education, so that we can, in a few years, show a picture of education that doesn't look like any of the 3 pictures that Graham showed. Because if we're here in 10 years and we show the same picture, well, then I certainly have not been part of contributing to something that had a greater impact. But I'm not going to give up the belief that I can. I do believe that I can make an impact. And this is how I feel about our teachers in the school and in the classrooms. This is their role, to give a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 16-year-old the understanding that you can make a difference. Not everyone is going to become Elon Musk, but everyone can do something for someone, and everyone can be a creator and an innovator and a disruptor in a happy environment where they're safe enough to do so. I have no idea about time, because I said that I was going to come here without technology, without any support of a device that could guide me through a presentation. You gotta be kidding. That's my inbuilt mathematics skills, huh? Thank you very much for listening to me. And I hope that that all of you can be inspired to go out and make an impact in whatever you represent, in whatever field you're in, and give somebody else the understanding that they matter.